Hello, and welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for continuing to follow along on my pen journey. So today is one of those days that happens once a year, my birthday, and it's nice when you get a package on your birthday, which is what I received here. Unlike many presents that you might get on your birthday, I know what's in this package. Now, I saw these pens on eBay, and I thought they would be interesting. And the price for one was a lot, and the price for 6, would you get every color, was not that much. Let's open this up and see what they look like. Yes, there are 6 pens. Here's the auction that I bid on, or won, or buy it now. And when I looked at this pen, I was interested because I like the shape and the design, and I thought it was a little bit of a different pen. And I haven't bought kind of a low-end generic Chinese pen for a while, so I thought I would give this one a try. But it was, over $6 for one pen, but it was a little bit over $16 US for 6 pens, and it included free shipping, so that's what I did. So here's what you need to search for. Here's some examples of other people selling it. And as usual, I would say that on eBay, you need to be an educated buyer. You need to search around. You need to really understand what you want and whether that's going to be satisfied by the item that is being offered. So let's take the cellophane wrappers off of these gems and take a look at them more closely. Well, here are the 6 pens, and my first impression is I'm impressed. They feel good in the hand, they have a decent weight to them, and impressive colors. Kind of reminds me of the 992, the 991 that Jin Hao did. And these are labeled A, B, C, D, E, F. And they just have a sticker on them to identify the model number 9158. And an interesting designed clip. Very stiff, but would probably be very functional. Might be difficult sliding it over like a jeans pocket, but a normal shirt fabric should be fine, and putting it into a pen case should also work. But they did a good job. I mean, this is a little bit of a higher end injection molded plastic, at least the way that it feels in the hand. And the pen has a triangular shape, which is in the cap and the barrel. Pull off cap. And we see a generic Lamy style nib with those little wings on it. Should be easy to swap in and out. The section is frosted and is also maintains that triangular shape. But it's not severe, so in the hand it feels fine, it fits fine. You're not going to be rotating that pen around, which somewhat limits to me in writing, but I think it would be comfortable writer. This just unscrews as you would expect in a cartridge converter, and you see a regular type of converter. It's nice that it's a lot of clear, so it'll not distract too much from the more transparent models. And it's hard to tell from that opening what'll fit, but I'm not a person to use cartridges or play around. If this converter works, I'm fine with it. So overall fit and finish is good. I like the design. There's a nice cap liner there at the top of the cap, so I expect the nib will stay nice and wet. And as you put it in, that triangular shape kind of gives you only one of 3 ways of putting it in. Well, look at the clear one to have a better view of what's going on inside. There you can see that cap liner, and that really is going to seal in that nib into a very small area, which is what you want. The pen's not going to be perfect, but then since I got 6 pens for a little bit over $3 a piece, or less than $3 a piece delivered, can't argue too much about what you get. And the colors are just nice. I mean, here's what I would call a blue and a teal. And let's bring in the purple so we can have the three in that family. And we've looked at the clear, so let's take a quick look at the green one. Again, it works nice. Looks like the quality level is consistent throughout all of these pens. So I'm happy. An interesting little gift to enjoy in my day celebrating my birth, which was many, many years ago. But I've enjoyed every year since then, and hopefully will continue to enjoy many years after this day. Decide which one I want to ink up, and let's see how that interesting nib, well, that Lamy style nib, which is very common in these inexpensive pens, writes. So for the rest of the review, we're going to focus on the Teal Pen. So the label came off very easily, and you can see that's number F, or letter F, and this is the red one, which has the A on it. We'll give you the translation of this Chinese so you can put it in perspective and see what they call them. And they were made between March and April of 2020, so they're relatively fresh off the press. The Lamy style nib pulls off very easily, and I have a ton of replacement nibs that go up to a 1.9, so I'm not concerned about what I need to do to get it in writing. And I pulled the converter apart because I'm not a fan of that spring, which is in there to agitate the ink. And when you store the pen with the nib upright, a lot of times the ink will pool at the bottom of the converter away from the nib. And in theory, when you put the pen nib down, that spring should be breaking the cohesion and adhesion that the ink is having with the converter and let it flow into the nib, but I haven't found it to really be effective there. The spring is very lightweight, and a lot of times the spring just stays with the ink and doesn't go anywhere. But to me, the downside of the spring is when you want to swap ink in a pen, cleaning out the converter is much more of a challenge and takes a lot more effort and a lot more flushing with that spring, because you got to get that ink out of that spring, which is not an easy thing to do. So this collar just pulls off using my rubber grippers, and I'll silicone grease the piston, the threads, put the thing all back together again, and we'll ink it up. The more I look at this pen, the more I'm impressed with the design. They just did some nice little detail work, like those 3 lines in the cap, which are on the 3 sides of that triangular shape, which then flows through to the triangular shape in the barrel. And they did a very nice, interesting job with that little angle at the end of the cap. Again, it's just nice. And I use this green pen because I think it's a good illustration of the transparent color. And most of that converter is clear, except for that little black band there. And there probably was challenges in trying to make that clear, because it has to be a little bit of a flexibility to work as a cap to keep that converter together. And when you unscrew the section, it's nice and easy. The threads work well. And when you tighten it back up again, once it meets full tight, all of those facets from the section up through the barrel all line up. It's a shame that they had to have an open hole here at the end. It'd be easy to plug with some clear glue just in there. You don't have to drop it down through the inside like I did on the 992s. So overall, I just can't help but say enough about a pen that I got 6 of them for $16, so less than $3 a piece. Extremely well made, and as we'll see later on, write extremely well too. So here's a collection of Lamy style nibs. These two here are actual Lamy nibs, a 1.1 and a 1.5. And just to put in the same comparison as a Lomby 1.1, Here's a Wing Sung to Wing Sung Fine nibs that I've had ground to a cursive italic by Mike, and they write extremely well. Here are two Lamy style nibs that kind of have that fire finish on them that Bobby was selling a while ago. I bought them when I saw them, and that probably they would look cool in that teal Wing Sung. And here's a series of Lambda 2 nibs that run from medium, 1.1, 1.5, and 1.9. So I've used these Lamy stub nibs in a couple of pens, and I've also used the Lambda 2 stub nib. And basically the biggest difference is the Lamy stub is a sharper stub, so that line has a crisper edge to it, where this is a more softer and rounded stub, so it has a softer edge to it. And I've done some writing examples of showing how a sharp nib, it's not an italic nib, but it's closer to an italic than it is to a rounded stub. And like I say, they come in a big range, so you may ask where to buy these. And I would suggest you just need to search, because I had to search for a while to find them. But when I did, I bought nibs when I could. And all of these nibs I've bought a long time ago, sometime last year. So I'm very happy with the nib in the 9158. So I'm not really adventurous right now to experiment, but you never know what might happen in the future. So you may ask, how close do these generic nibs come to the Lamy dimensions? And they come very, very close. They're all about 16 millimeters in length. The width is about 6.4 to 6.8 millimeters, and the depth, which is critical to ensure that that nib fits good against the feed and you get good ink flow, is all 3 millimeters. So they're very close in dimension. What I've noticed is that sometimes the nib needs to be just pushed in a little bit to fit tight on the feed. But to me, that's a minor adjustment. You can almost do it with your hands, or if not, a pair of pliers with a soft jaws on it would work fine. But I've swapped nibs in and out of Lamys and all the other pens that use these Lamy style nibs easily without issues, and have been able to get interesting writing experiences from these variety of nibs. So this ink called out to me, Pen BBS number 286, Mountain Dusk, and it's a dark green teal, and I guess I have 2 bottles of it. There's certainly mountains there, certainly kind of a dark purplish color, but let's take the color card, and we'll see a nice dark green blue ink. See how well it works in that extra fine nib. A reassembled converter. It got a pretty decent fill. I did my 3 full fills just to make certain everything gets flushed out. And usually the second fill you get a little bit more ink in it because of air that was here in the feed and section gets filled in with ink. Let's see how it writes. Well, we've filled the pen and we've written with it. So I'm ready to show you how it writes and to give you my impressions of using the pen. That triangular shape is nice. It kind of keeps the pen in one particular spot. And the cap and the barrel fit together very nicely. My interest in the pen has been rewarded because I do really like the pen. And considering the 6 pens cost about what a one low-cost Pen BBS pen would be, I think it's a great deal. That pops off. And the other thing that's nice about it is it posts very deep, very securely, and it feels great. So this is definitely a poster lover pen. One who likes to post would like this pen. We'll give you those weights. We'll give you the dimensions so you can put it in perspective. And it's kind of hard to give you measurements on that section because of the triangular shape, but it's much larger than the shape on a standard like Lamy Safari. So that makes it easier for me to use. And you notice how that clip lines up with the nib. When you unscrew and screw in the section, those threads line up so those facets follow through from the barrel into the section. I'm impressed with that nice little attention to detail. The pen cannot be eyedroppered in its initial state because that opening here is not closed. So that's very common with a lot of pens like this, the way they're injection molded. But if you really had to eyedropper this, and I think it would work well as an eyedropper, you would need to seal up that end. You know, I use a clear Gorilla Glue when I do that, which works well with all types of plastic and dries clear. But I'm not right now going to be filling these up and using them as eyedroppers. So overall, I'm very happy with this pen. Yes, you can hear the nib on the paper, but it is an extra fine nib. So it's not going to be the smoothest writer in the world. You're going to get some feedback because she's just got a very, very tiny tip of that nib on the paper. And I write a little bit on the heavy side, so it's going to have that. But, you know, I'm not an extra fine nib guy, but I could live with this extra fine nib. I think it's now time to rate the pen. And I'm going to give it a 9.1. I think it definitely deserves to be in the 9 category. And I gave it a point over just a 9.0. I'm going to give it 2 checks for design, build, the way it feels in the hand. They just did an excellent job. And the nib is going to get 1 check because it works well. So I haven't explored the lower end of the Chinese pen market for a while. I've been really fixated on Pen BBS and Moon Man and Fullawin and a bunch of other ones that I've been just impressed with, but they've been above the $20 mark, most of them. And here's a pen that if you want one, it's around $6. If you want 6 of them, which to me would be the thing to do, then you have tons of different colors, ink them up with different colors. And we're going to take a look at some other nibs that might work. Well, I needed to try another nib, so I put in that 1.1 millimeter Lamy stub. It slid right in, easy to take in and out. So let's see how it writes. So I think you can see that is a substantially wider line. It's about the same wetness. I mean, all of these stub nibs like this are super smooth. And they do give you some decent line variation, because that's the nature of a stub. To me, if you're going to start with a stub, the 1.1 is the one I would recommend. this works well. I looked at eBay and I found a fair number of people selling these nibs. So here's some examples of what I found. For a couple dollars, I think it's a great investment. Transforms this into a completely different pen. For those that like the extra fine, that works great. You can get a fine, you can get a medium. I haven't seen broads. You can get 1.1, 1.5, 1.9, so lots of options. So hopefully you've enjoyed this view of a pen that I didn't know existed till I found it, and now I'm happy that I did. So thank you for watching. May you enjoy your pens, your inks. Put some thoughts on paper. Maybe share them with other people or not. Read them later, years later. Interesting what, as you change, what your perspective on your writing can be. So this is the end of this video for now. Be safe, be healthy, and be happy. Bye. Until the next video. Nice writer.